Name's Dorian. Dorian Tyrell. Listen up, bucko. We got a lot to discuss, and a short time to do it, so I really hope that you're paying very close attention. I'm only going to tell this once, after all. I am the proud owner of a nightclub named The Monkey's Paw, perhaps named after the famous story, or perhaps based on something I like to shove up my anus, but that's not important. That's not important. The club is based in Berkland. And tell a lie, I don't actually own the club per se, as it's really owned by my boss Nico. Or it used to be. We'll talk more about that later, perhaps. Nico is known as the official ruler of Berkland, and he holds more power than a tail catcher. Don't ever walk your dog past a tail catcher unless you want them to become tailless. I've worked for Nico for years and have known him for even longer. Over the years, I've slowly climbed my way up through the ranks of Berkland's criminal underworld to become Nico's right-hand man and principal lieutenant. As his trusted lieutenant, Nico has assigned me to run the Monkey's Paw. He named the club Monkey's Paw after his idol, PG Tips Monkey. Nico had been a protege for Monkey back when he was training to become a tea-monk. As a tea-monk, you're required to shove PG Tips tea bags into your mouth as you ring the bells. Ring the bells and let the gargoyles sing. Sadly, Nico's plans to become a monk all fell apart. No one's quite sure how it happened, but Nico returned to Berkland, where he became the ruthless crime lord that we all know today. Though Monkey cut ties with Nico following his return to Berkland, Nico opted to honor his former mentor by naming his nightclub after him. Oh, how sweet. Oh, how quaint. Despite being Nico's most loyal and most fearsome subordinate, I'm not treated very well by him. He treats me like scum, and loves to taunt me by having his men push me down onto the ground, which is not my kink. From above, Nico swings a golf club in front of my face as he goes on and on about how I'm attracting, too much police attention. Nico desperately wants to have me capped, but he offered to give me a chance to earn my salt. Basically, Nico would allow for me to walk away free if I was able to get the Monkey's Paw generating more profit. In recent months, the Monkey's Paw has really been falling behind in profits ever since we took over, actually. Originally, the club was named the Blue Tick, perhaps known after the famous Tick. You know, the guy who yells spoon and has a pet chalupa or whatever that thing's called. Some by an incredibly dangerous meatball-eating motherfucker known as the Swede. Funny thing is that the guy wasn't even Swedish, so for you Wally Walrus fans out there, too bad. After a violent shootout between Nico's men and the Swedes' men, we were able to take control of the newly renamed Monkey's Paw. Thereafter, I was elected the owner of the club by Nico, but he still owned the documents. Whatever the fuck that means. I don't know. They just told me to say this. I've been trying my best to attract more customers to the club by hosting a variety of different charity events sponsored by the Mickey Mouse Charity Foundation themselves. Heck, I've even tried making plays. The play is the thing after all. Sadly, the plays shown at Monkey's Paw never do very well, and this may have something to do with the fact that our plays are, well, for lack of a better word, complete shit. Hamilton? More like Hamel bad. Okay, we're not even showing Hamilton right now. Wokest. For example, I made a play entitled Deflate a Mouse. Despite the title, there were no mice involved in this play. The plot of the play was about a butch security guard, played by Ray Manuels, who wished to join the choir. He was thwarted in his efforts by a gang of singing bishops who wanted the guard to join them and become a man of the cloth. There was also a subplot involving a fat chipmunk named Chili Charlie, who wishes to become a gangster and becomes involved with the cartel. The cartel forced Chili Charlie to hide a series of tubes from the police. The cartel planned on using the tubes to bring their cookie master, and I don't mean monster, back from the dead. Known as Mr. Lyman, or Lehman if you must, the cookie master was the only one who could. The security guard from joining the choir could keep him. Cartel also had it out for the guard for unknown reasons, so who gives a shit. Play wasn't very good, and this was mainly because of Nico. He insisted that I tone down the darker elements of my original screenplay, making the play more fun for general audiences. Also demanded that the security guard's mother become a whimpering Mary Sue rather than the tight-fisted, snarky character written in my screenplay. Don't mess with an artist's vision. Get back at Nico for his meddling. I added a silver-tongued troll named Nico into the play. It serves him right, the frickin' troll. As a result of the confusing plot and terrible songs, Deflate a Mouse was met with highly negative reviews. And, well, it only performed one show, much to my chagrin. That means embarrassment. Anyway, after the colossal failure of Deflate a Mouse, I was summoned to Birkeland Steel Works to attend an audience with the big man himself, Nico. During the meeting, I tried to act cool by asking, "Yo, Mr. Nico, what's going on, bro?" Nico eyed his two henchmen, and they pinned me down onto the ground and stuffed a golf ball and tea into my mouth. Swinging his golf club in front of my face tauntingly, Nico asked, "Your play costs me a great deal of money, Dorian. I'm very cross with you. I thinks you need to be taught a lesson." Nico then hit the ball and the tea out from my mouth, causing me to yelp in pain. I got up from the floor as Nico rubbed my face affectionately, as he then said, "I'm fed up with you, Dorian, but I will give you a break. 1 week to leave Birkeland. After that, I will have to break out my brand new cheese grater." I became very fearful as I was then escorted out of the steelworks by Nico's gorilla henchman. Nico was going to use said cheese grater to grate my face into salad dressing, and if that's not scary, what the hell's wrong with you? It sells brand new patterned Tyrell salad dressing to cynical college professors all the way in Bosstown. Not wanting that to happen, I thought it'd be best to leave town immediately. My best friend and possible lover, Dr. Freeze, had other ideas. I know, despite his name, Dr. Freeze was ironically not a doctor. He's actually a bishop and part-time hitman for yours truly. Much like me, Freeze despised Nico, and he had asked for my help in overthrowing him and stealing his empire right from under him. I felt this would be a very stupid thing to do, considering the fact that Nico has the entire city of Birkeland in the palm of his hand. Dr. Freeze's eyes became sly as he placed his hand around my shoulder before saying, "You're talking to the doctor here. Listen here and listen well, for I have got a plan." Oh, really? And what is that plan exactly? I asked with an annoyed tone as Freeze took me for a little walk in the park. Dr. Freeze had a plan, and a cunning one at that. Recently, Freeze's friend Caramel Joe had gotten his hands on a horrid bootleg episode. What's the significance of that? I asked as Freeze and I walked along the riverbank. "Well, you see, Nico and his boys are hosting this big shindig at the Monkey's Paw this Saturday. So, I figured, why don't we give them a little something that they shall never ever forget?" I grinned ear to ear as I quickly put two and two together. May 22. Freeze planned on showing the aforementioned bootleg to Nico so that he might die of shock. Ha ha ha. Oh, how cunning, Doctor. For all his power and status in the city, Nico had one fatal flaw. Besides being mortal, both he and his men were allergic to bootlegs. I'm being deadly serious here, buddy. It's not a single one of Nico's men who isn't allergic to bootlegs. Not a single one. Bootlegs are incredibly dangerous, and Nico knows fully well of their power and the effect they have on him. One time, Nico used a really horrid SpongeBob bootleg to kill his former associate, Cress. Cress had been skimming cash and stealing dough from the Muffin Man. Yes, the Muffin Man who lives at Drowser Station and not Drury Lane, as we had all previously been famously led to believe, perhaps infamously. Nico headed to Cress's yacht in the middle of the Bahamas in order to confront him about the dough. Heading inside the decompression chamber, Nico discovered to be filled to the brim with freshly baked soda bread. Nico grabbed Cress by the shirt collar and threw him into the decompression chamber. Cress was then forcibly subjected to watch the hard SpongeBob bootleg, which featured Patrick Star twerking in front of a bunch of cynical old ladies. Cress' head swelled up from shock, and it ended up exploding like a balloon. Nico had to be very careful when handling these bootlegs, as he was not allowed to watch them, otherwise he would end up following Cress's fate. After leaving Belleville Park, Dr. Freeze and I decided to pay Caramel Joe a visit down at his factory on High Street. The factory produced Happy Meal boxes before they just gave you milk and apple slices, which had frowns etched into the boxes instead of a smile and attempted to fame McDonald's. The factory had a massive mess hall, which is where we decided to have our meeting with Caramel Joe. "So what's this bootleg about anyhow, Joe?" I asked as I sipped on a glass of ass. Caramel Joe looked at me with big bulging eyes as he said, "It's the House of Mouse bootleg. I got it from my good friend Eddie Hornet. He stole it from some sweet old lady who'd gotten it from a bargain being at her local Morrison's. She wanted to give it to her grandson, Wilf." I actually knew Wilf. He's a good kid. Perhaps a little too obsessed with the eggs from Beauty and the Beast. But why were they so expensive? I wonder. Caramel Joe then asked if I wanted to help him chug some corn, and by that he of course meant help him set the DVD up. "Set it up yourself," I said bluntly as I slapped Caramel Joe's neck with the back of my hand. I lit myself a faggot, that means cigars. I sat down on the old wooden floor next to Dr. Freeze. Freeze and I puffed violently on our cigars as Caramel Joe kept dropping the DVD disc. So he had covered the thing in butter in order to help keep it nice and silky smooth. An age-old tactic taught to Caramel Joe by his grandfather Skater Joe, who used to hunt in the forest in rural Spain during the 1800s. But how did he have a skateboard if... Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't matter. Placing the disc into the DVD player, Caramel Joe found the system to not be working properly. Getting frustrated, I got up from the floor and walked over to Caramel Joe and asked, "Seriously, Joe, can you not even set up a damn DVD player? It ain't exactly rocket science, you prick." "It's a bit jam, Mr. Tyrell," Caramel Joe said as all of a sudden big bulging wires started to come out from the top of the DVD player. Caramel Joe then cowered behind me like a little bitch as I rubbed my temple before saying, "At this rate, I'm probably better off getting killed by Nico." I falcon punched Caramel Joe and sent him flying to the other side of the bloomin' factory. Just in my suit as I finally got the DVD player up and running as the opening advertisements began to play. While the commercials played, I sat back down next to Dr. Freeze, who was grinning from ear to ear like some kind of fishmonger. Oh, perhaps the corn thing had to do with ear to ears and ears of corn. What the hell was I talking about, anyway? The commercials were very scary. You know, I'm a man who ain't afraid to admit when he's scared. One commercial had this weird sock creature thing with lipstick who was watching telly with his pet mutant bulldog. The mutant bulldog's face looked swollen as it ended up eating the sock creature's telly. The sock creature held his head in despair as he cried at the very tippy top of his lungs, "Oh no!" He also sounded Welsh for some bizarre reason, and that by far was the scariest part about him. Never really liked the Welsh after me gran got conned by a cynical Welsh farmer back when she was living in Merthyr Tydfil. The second and final commercial, thank Otter, featured Dr. Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker, singing to me about how everyone has a little love in their heart. After concluding their little song, Honeydew got extra close to the screen as he asked, "What might I put you down for?" "Nothing," as I said, to taken and said and taken another puff from my cigar. Honeydew looked really confused and asked, "You wish to remain a hippopotamus?" Beaker then pulled a glass jar out from his ear which was filled with big bumblebees. Beaker opened the jar up and started stuffing them into his mouth as Honeydew had finally created the ultimate invention, edible bumblebees. Sadly, one of the bees thought Beaker was a onion farmer and so gave him a right good sting on the schnoz. Beaker held his big red nose in pain as he cried, "Eep!" Beaker's yelling was so loud it caused the windows of the factory to break into a million tiny bite-sized pieces if you're into eating windows, which, if you do, you're effed up. Meanwhile, Honeydew was picked up by the finger by one of the bumblebees and was carried off to Jupiter. "Help me, Beaker!" Honeydew cried at the top of his lungs as Beaker then tried his best to help his beloved friend, quote-unquote, get back down. After those two fucking commercials finally ended, I was left alone with my thoughts for a brief moment, as if I have a brain. until the main theme song of House of Mouse finally began to play. And let me tell you something, buddy old pal. The theme song was very bad. Very bad indeed. For starters, it was raining and the club looked really disgusting as there was graffiti and penises drawn all over it. Must have been the 10-15 club. During the part where Donald goes to shake Captain Hook's hand, Hook responded by shooting Donald with a golden revolver, all the while pulling the most impressive and passive face you'd ever see. At least he didn't shoot him with a golden retriever. Daisy and the White Rabbit were shown playing Shrek 2 on Xbox. The Beast appeared to be on some sort of game show and was being asked a real easy question about crocodiles and rivers of jellyfish by Cogsworth, who was pulling the smuggest face you'd ever see. Why so smug today, Cogsworth, don't you know? Too much smug that make your teeth go gray. Philoctetes was shown taking a dump in Pooh Bear's honey pot. Wish fulfillment. And lastly, and certainly not least, during the part where Goofy and the Penguins come into the dining area holding plates, Goofy ended up tripping on a conveniently placed banana peel. Goofy and the hot plates were flying into the air, and a flaming hot shish kebab ended up stabbing a small-time triad boss right in the chest. He screamed in pain, but none of the guests seemed to notice. Oh, before we continue, I should also probably mention that Mickey looked really sick. His skin was melting. He had an elephant-like trunk. Also, Mickey, along with looking sicker than Arthur Morgan, also looked very sad. To be honest with you, it breaks my heart. I'm actually a massive fan of Mickey Mouse. My entire bedroom is decorated with pictures of Mickey and his friends' adventures. Or perhaps misadventures, depending on your point of view. I was known as the Mickey Mouse Master in Birkeland, but I sadly ended up losing that title when I failed to answer a question for Radio Disney. Radio Disney had called me on a Monday morning before work. Their question was, who was Mickey's predecessor? Oswald the Robert, I answered, but my mouth was full of Ahab Quaker oats, so I ended up sounding really muffled and resulted in the huge cash prize of 99 pounds. Instead going in this really cynical rat-faced teenage hood who loves to give laxatives to seagulls. This may be a way to get back at his father, whose head is shaped like a bowling ball. Ahem. Sorry about that big old tangent. To be honest, I just really love talking to you. I really feel like you understand me in ways that others like Nico do not. You understand why I keep going on tangents about random characters, don't you? Anyway, the episode then began with an outside view of House of Mouse. The scene then transitioned to the men's room. Aren't we in for a treat? And Horace was shown plunging some toilets as he then said, I'm getting really sick of you. Horace sounded very angry and was not the usual funny, dim-witted but well-meaning Horace that I knew and loved. Horace was cleaning the bathrooms for, a while, until Mickey eventually showed up to ask what Horace had going on. Upon entering the bathroom, Mickey held his nose in disgust as he cried, Horace, what the blooming heck is that smell? It's not my fault, Mickey, Horace said before continuing with, We've got another 10 cases of salmonella poisoning. That's the 15th case this week alone, Mickey whined as he sank to his knees. In the past 2 weeks, the House of Mouse had come under fire in the LA Times for causing a massive outbreak of salmonella poisoning. Mickey and his staff were unsure on the cause of the poisoning, but Mickey had no doubt on his mind that someone was conspiring against his beloved nightclub. Now, many had tried her best to get Mickey to hire a private investigator, but Mickey didn't have the funds to afford a private eye. He was already in debt to the mob enough as it is. I can relate, Mickey. I can relate. At first, Mickey believed that his arch-nemesis Mortimer Mouse was behind the poisoning. Mortimer had become rather infamous in recent months for hanging out in the canteen to smoke weed with the Penguins after hours. Oh, it had to have been Mortimer. It just had to be. Acting out against Minnie's wishes, Mickey thumbed a lift down to Valentine, where he found Mortimer Mouse playing a game of cards with a bunch of cynical birds who may or may not have ties to the Colombians. Perhaps Mortimer could use that to his advantage and negotiate a possible loophole? Oh, don't be stupid. Mortimer may be bad, but he never sink that low. Mickey confronted Mortimer in the town square and grabbed him by the shirt collar. Mortimer laughed hysterically before saying, You're going to screw a little fecker, Mick. Mickey then asked Mortimer about the Salmonella outbreak. Mortimer denied having had any part in it. Mickey released Mortimer, then pointed at Mickey's shoes and asked, "Mind if I borrow your shoes?" Also while saying that Mortimer was pulling the smuggest face you'd ever see. Believing that Mortimer was telling him porkies, Mickey opted to chase Mortimer through Valentine, even after the latter got inside his Twinkie mobile. Mickey chased Mortimer for what seemed like hours, until Mortimer ended up crashing his car into an old oak tree. Serves the bastard right. Mortimer didn't die from the crash, however. In fact, after a brief visit to the hospital, he left a changed mouse, who decided to become a supervillain named Mega Mort. Sadly, Mega Mort is proper dumb and loves to sit under trees and sing about his time working on the rig. Mortimer, or rather Mega Mort, what's happened to you? First Horace, and now you, Morty. Who's next? Could it be Jafar? I fucking hope not. I will be watching you from Jafar. I have several stalking charges against me. After indirectly causing the creation of Mega Mort, Mickey returned to House of Mouse after Donald made the bold suggestion that Mickey pretend the Salmonella poisoning never happened. It was actually the fault of a rise in the Silicon Mass. That evening, a massive show was held at the House of Mouse. Not that many Disney characters were in attendance. In fact, the only characters attending the show were an old smelly fisherman, or rather fisher mouse, Scrooge McDuck, Launchpad McQuack, Jack Skellington, you might have heard of him before, his lover, Freddy Krueger. Big Pete, the landlord of the club, was also in attendance, as was all the other principal characters like Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and George Jetson. Looks like a full house tonight, fellas. Big Pete laughed heavily before chucking down a big bottle of ass sauce. Mickey hopped onto the stage and introduced the show by saying, "Hey there, everybody. We're sorry if the club seems a little empty tonight, but I believe it has something to do with the new traffic lights being placed over Drowser Station." "That's bloody bollocks," Scrooge barked whilst glaring at Mickey. He then continued with, "It's that damn food in your kitchen. It's getting everybody sick. Poor old Duckworth is forcing me to buy him Lucozade and tablets from Tesco." Scrooge had a massive contempt for Tesco after they tried to cut Scrooge's throat and throw him into the oven in order to make him a roast duck. Shit. Perhaps a roast McDuck, I should say. Needing to shut Scrooge up before Big Pete got the health department up his ass, Mickey opted to play a really awesome cartoon, which would satisfy everybody's needs. The cartoon came on screen and featured a chocolate bar singing to the screen about how you needed to chuck him out. He turned green as big worms came out from his eyes, and he said, "You could get sick real quick." Having had enough of that, Freddy Krueger threw his glove at the projector screen, causing the entire thing to break into a million tiny bite-sized pieces. Guess he was trying to make some Reese's Pieces. You know shit's bad when Freddy Krueger's in the right. Mickey made a last-ditch attempt to entertain the guests by playing some tunes on his handy-dandy harmonica. Sadly, the harmonica was very dusty, and it caused Mickey's lips to become very dry and crusty. His mouth fell into the floor as the curtains were drawn on the stage. Backstage, Mickey put his mouth back on with super glue, as Minnie appeared from behind him, crossing her arms. She then asked, "Are you finished, Mickey?" "Yes, all right. I bet you won, Minnie. I'll hire a private eye," Mickey said as he got up from his chair, late for Minnie to have him pinned down by Donald and Daisy. "I'm afraid it's already far too late for that, Mickey," Minnie said as she then continued with, "This is my case, and I've already found someone to help me solve it." Minnie returned to the stage and asked if anyone there would be willing to help her find the culprit of the Salmonella poisoning. Yes, Minnie had lied to Mickey about already having someone to help her in her case. The reason? To appear more confident, I suppose. Why the fuck are you asking me? She eventually settled upon the aforementioned Smelly Mouse. "Oh, me?" the smelly fisher mouse asked as he then proceeded to yank his head clean off, revealing it had been nothing more than an elaborate red herring. Climbing out from the costume, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was Basil, the great mouse detective, the entire time. "Let's crack this case," Minnie proclaimed happily as she magically donned a pair of detective clothes. Basil and Minnie's first stop was to visit an old friend at the House of Mouse. That friend was... It was Billy Bob Tanley, and old Tanley had a lot to answer, for it would seem that recently Billy Bob Tanley had supplied the House of Mouse with free crates upon crates of Budweiser. My father works at a brewery. He makes Budweiser. He's a professor. I fucked that one up. Oh, well, who cares? The quality of the beer had greatly gone downhill in recent months, and both Minnie and Basil believed this to not be a coincidence. The beer had become very smelly, and many believed that was due to Billy spiking the beer with Salmonella. Billy Bob had always hated the House of Mouse. Even though he supplied the club with beer, he truly hated it for its pro-PG agenda. It seemed to force down everyone's throat day in and day out. Of course, he could have just supplied them with Miller Lite if he really hated them. Basil and Minnie caught the bus to Billy Bob Tanley's residence, where Billy was in the middle of trying his best to watch Woody lose his schmo once again. This video's fucking boring, Billy Bob Tanley yelled at the very top of his lungs, as both Minnie and Basil came running into the house. Basil pointed an accusing finger at Tanley as he bellowed, I know what you're up to, Billy Bob. I know it was you who poisoned all the patrons at the House of Mouse. Angered beyond any reasonable measure, Billy Bob Tanley grabbed Basil by the neck as he yelled, Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? You know who I am. I'm Billy Bob Tanley, you motherfucker. Well, Tanley, you really are a potty mouth. Billy Bob Tanley then performed an incredibly smelly musical number for Minnie and Basil, who basically explained that he was not the cause of the salmonella poisoning. At one point in the song, Tanley and his smelly backup dancers all appeared on the levitating platform as he started to get a little off topic and started singing about how he needed to impress his professor. At the Budweiser brewery, I suppose. Wanting to leave, Minnie and Basil turned their way toward the front door, only to get prevented from leaving by Billy's BBF, Otis, who looked at Basil with an incredibly smug face before asking, Want to dance, pretty boy? The pair were then forced to sit down on an old soapbox as they were subjected to watching the rest of Billy Bob Tanley's heinous musical performance. Ha! Back at the House of Mouse, food poisoning had leaked through the nightclub once again, as Horace started to feel really sick while cleaning packs of Lancaster gum from underneath the tables. Horace looked really ill and started shaking like a madman as Goofy then appeared on the scene, holding a huge platter of mashed potatoes. Hiya, Horace! What's shaking? Goofy inquired as Horace responded with, I feel a bit sick. Chow on this, Goofy proclaimed happily as he and his penguin waiters forwarded the huge platter of mashed potatoes into Horace's mouth. Horace gagged with very bite, as he then started shitting violently. Well, that alone was worth the price of admission. The force of Horace's shit ended up sending him flying up into the evening sky. He eventually crashed into the ceiling and fell back down on the floor where he crashed atop of Mickey. This reminds me of the film Thunderpants. Horace slid on top of Mickey, who whined, Oh, Minnie, where are you? Wanting to distract the guests from the horrendous shit that came as a result of Horace's bathroom troubles, Mickey opted to play yet another cartoon on the newly rebuilt projector. This cartoon was even worse, as it was about Goofy collecting charity by going door to door with an incredibly scary-looking walrus. The pair would force people to get baptized at a church where the front guard lady sings opera at you, which makes your feet itch like a stitch. This disgusting cartoon caused everyone in the club to start rioting. Scrooge McDuck climbed atop the chandelier and started screaming like a madman, or rather mad duck, I suppose, if you're a speciesist. Jack Skellington started rubbing his chin all over Freddy Krueger, who said with a glare, You could have had Jason! He was staring at the screen as he said this, and he looked very hungry. It was as if old Fred was asking me personally to get him a bag of chips. What a lima bean! This episode was really starting to rattle my feathers. I'm starting to lose my edge! Oh, buggering Buggerton! How was I ever going to take control of Birkeland without my edge? Oh, well, whatever. Who cares? Except for me. Anyone who cares about me. Back to the episode. Protesters stormed into the streets and started protesting outside the House of Mouse. The protesters wanted Mickey dead for getting their friends and family sick. Really sick. Police Commissioner Al Priss was leading the protest as he placed a megaphone up to his mouth and proclaimed, Come on, Mickey. Come outside and we all settle this over a lovely pint. There was no response until Mickey appeared on the rooftop of the nightclub performing his very own makeshift barbershop quartet with Jimmy Cricket, Horace, Freddy Krueger, and Jack Skellington. Well, that's about as much character of a quartet as the Beatles. They're all dressed up like the Beatles. That explains a lot, much to Alpris' chagrin. Never liked the Beatles as he preferred the Needles. A.k.a. Oasis. Liam Gallagher would say, "A dangerous pastime, I know." Alpris pretended to enjoy the performance and clapped along to the music as he turned to face three fellow cops and said, "Go get the sax." Alpris had longed to use those sacks as he had been given them by his grandmother many moons ago, back when she was serving hard time at Smelly Oaks retirement home. She hated Mickey Mouse, she did, and hoped that the sacks would one day be used to kidnap Mickey Mouse. They may be sentenced to high treason. She gave Alpris the sacks and told him to kiss Mickey once for her. What the fuck is wrong with Alpris' grandma? Protest was finally stormed the way into the club, and Mickey and the others hid on the rooftops. They all huddled around Mickey in a circle as he said, "Oh, Minnie, please hurry." Meanwhile, Minnie and Basil, knowing that the salmonella poisoning had to have been an inside job, realized they now had only two suspects. Perhaps the usual suspects. Well, first there was Goofy. No, certainly not Goofy, Minnie thought in her head as she said to Basil, "He's just too simple." I guess that's a nice way of saying retarded. Basil walked around his dimly lit studio apartment, smoking from a pipe as he said, "Perhaps so, Mrs. Mouse, perhaps so. But what about his plucky young chef?" By using a microscope and examining a rotten piece of pork from the House of Mouse, Basil was able to deduce that the bacteria came from Antarctica. Antarctica was Pepperoni's home turf. Pepperoni was the head chef at House of Mouse, but he received a huge amount of money from his uncles in Green Oak. It's worth noting that both Donald and Goofy had also spent a great deal of time in Antarctica, where they became rather infamous for seal clubbing after they ran out of Heinz baked beans to eat. They happened to take seals out to nightclubs in order to strike it rich and earn themselves a real name in the clubbing industry. Sally never did, Remy, it never did. Well, come on then, Basil. Let's go confront Pepperoni before he boards his next flight to Antarctica, Minnie proclaimed happily as she pulled Basil out of the room by the back of his shirt collar. Gosh, that girl's got some aggression problems. Basil hadn't even finished lighting up his damn pipe yet, Minnie. Rude carrot onion. After making their way through the airport and somehow passing it by, you never know what the hell they have on their persons, the pair caught the next flight to Antarctica. Arriving in Antarctica, Minnie and Basil confronted Pepperoni, who confessed to having been behind the salmonella poisoning. They seemed to be rather indifferent about the whole thing. Oh, and by the by, just so you know, Pepperoni was a mutant, as such, he only communicated using sign language. Oh well. After some questioning, Pepperoni eventually went on to reveal that he poisoned the food at House of Mouse's payback for Mickey stealing his one true love Edmer back in the summer to end all summers. Indeed, a summer of love. Pepperoni wanted to get Mickey back, and he thought that this could be his chance. "Minnie, we'll get this penguin if we're ever going to make this case," Basil explained as both he and Minnie asked for Pepperoni to step up and confess to what he's done. Pepperoni agreed to help the pair out if, and only if, they were able to beat him in a plane race all around the entire Antarctic continent. Pepperoni wanted to prove that penguins could fly in order to rub into his belly Big Sal, who had a thing for penguins that don't know their locker combination. In any case, Pepperoni, using a makeshift crop duster, again with the farting stuff, ended up crashing into the side of a mountain, seemingly killing him, though leaked pictures of him attending barbecues on Reddit beg to differ. With Pepperoni seemingly dead, Minnie and Basil were forced to return to the club empty-handed on the next flight. Returned to House of Mouse, Minnie and Basil were horrified to find the entire place in shambles. And a tiny dining room was covered in sick and shit. Actual shit, too. I'm not even metaphorically speaking here, peeps. If you have a scat fetish, you're probably really turned on right now. Anyway, Minnie confronted Mickey, who was sitting, and I don't mean shitting, under a table, vomiting into his shoes. Well, those classic Mickey Mouse shoes now filled up with throw-up. By asking, "Mickey, what are you doing? What do you have to say for yourself?" Mickey then pointed an accusing finger at Minnie as he yelled, "It is you, Minnie, who's the real idiot." Since Mickey said that, all the other sick Disney characters all crowded around Minnie and Basil all the while, playing the most judgmental faces that I have ever seen in my entire life, and believe me, I've done a lot of bad shit in my time. I better be going! Basil cried at the very top of his lungs as he made a break for the fire, accidentally ended up tripping on some Genko Pura olive oil, which had gotten stuck to the beautiful tiled floor. While Minnie helped Basil get back to his feet, Goofy appeared as he said, "Well, see, Minnie, the whole story that Pepperoni gave you was all one big elaborate red herring." Yes, indeed, it had been Goofy who'd caused the salmonella poisoning. Not so simple after all. You see, wanting to get back on how much money he spent on food runs every week after getting several threatening phone calls from the LOLs, Goofy opted to swing a deal with some incredibly dodgy Russian bootleggers who were bootlegging smelly quiche out from freighters on the orders of one... well, shit, Colonel Dodo. Oh, perhaps you've heard of him. I know, I certainly fucking have! The quiche was incredibly rotten, as Colonel Dodo would plan on using the rotten quiche to get back at some old farts at the country club in Santa Monica, where tricks are for kids. They dared to mock Dodo. They shall not go untolerated. Goofy had no idea that the quiche was poisonous, I should mention that. And because Goofy loved mixing quiche with all the rest of the food on the menu, it meant that all the food got really bad really quickly. Oh, Goofy, you stupid cunt! That's a bad word. Well, that's what Minnie said as she laughed and sat down with the other sick Disney characters to play some Shrek 2 on Xbox, as do all who truly believe. The episode then ended with the normal credits, only there was a sick post-credit scene which featured a green bolt of lightning which ended up coming out from the TV and striking me right in the forehead. A massive mass formed in a small green ball in front of me and latched onto my face. Wish fulfillment. I fell to the floor in pain, but recovered quickly as it suddenly became big and muscly. This bootleg episode had the keys to creating Bootleg Hulk. I was suddenly big and muscly now, but also had a green menacing face like Shrek the Ogre. Carmel Joe looked at me with a big aroused look on his face as he asked, "Whoa, boss, are you okay?" "I'm better than okay, you frickin' moron!" I barked angrily as I felt it was time to pay our old friend Nico a visit at the Monkey's Paw. Nico was hosting a charity gala at the Monkey's Paw. Him and his men were celebrating as they thought that I had already left town. Boy, were they wrong. Using my newfound powers, I broke down the door to the nightclub and entered the area, accompanied by Dr. Freeze, Carmel Joe, and the rest of my men. "Who the hell are you?" Nico asked in an outraged tone, and by his standards, that's outrage, as his men drew their guns out on me. "I'm just an ex-employee who's come for his back pay. Or should I say, payback?" I proclaimed, which caused Nico to ask, "Dorian?" "Kill him!" I barked as a massive shootout occurred in the club, which culminated in all of Nico's pals getting iced, baby. Rising from the table, Nico shot a full bullets into me, but they had no effect as I was able to absorb the bullets as if I was wearing some kind of spongy material or was wearing a massive friggin' fat suit. I sucked the bullets up and shot them out through my mouth like a machine gun. Bullets caught Nico in the chest and sent him flying to the other side of the fucking room. And with Nico disposed of, I declared myself the new owner of the Monkey's Paw, and also elected myself as the new kingpin of Berkeley in Nico's place. Sadly, it all came crashing down after the mask was stolen by Eddie Hornet. "Pass must be paid for!" Eddie Hornet proclaimed happily as he shoved the mask on and became a Super Hornet. I gave chase to Eddie Hornet, chased them all through the streets of Brooklyn until I eventually ended up falling down a manhole. That's not slang for a man's anus, in case you're wondering. Falling down the manhole, I ended up in the sewer line where I was confronted by a massive squid, and before you could even say electric telemarketers bathing in sunflower oil, I was captured by the squid. Why the hell would you want to say that? I'm now forced in an underwater bunker. The squid who's granted me the ability to breathe underwater, even without gills. Treats me like scum and throws mayonnaise jars at me in every moment of my existence, and I friggin' hate mayonnaise, let me tell you. Almost had it. Almost fucking had it. I was this close to finally learning ultimate power, but fate just has to shove shit in my face every given opportunity. I should have been smarter. Maybe I'm the simple one, not Goofy. Why didn't Carmel Joe tell me that Eddie Hornet was back in town? Could have better prepared myself that way. Can't be expected to know all these things myself. Sir Carmel Joe and Dr. Freeze tried to rob the First National Bank of Brooklyn, but they failed to turn the alarms off, which led to them getting arrested. Commissioner Green was known for his exceedingly cruel punishments, and he had special plans for the pair. Dr. Freeze was locked up inside a massive fridge where Carmel Joe was thrown into a pit of boiling hot caramel. How fitting. Isn't it ironic, don't you think? 2 months after being locked inside of the fridge, Dr. Freeze was finally released and had formed into massive ice cubes. Oh, again with the irony. Guess he won't be operating anymore then, will he? You know, living with a squid ain't all bad. I mean, after all, I've learned to become a lot more respectful and humble since living with me squiddy roommate. Heck, my squid friend and I have been considering making our own sitcom all about living together. Thinking about pitching our idea to the BBC, but not ITV. They don't like me on the account of an incident up in Owl Creek. An incident that I myself shall personally never ever forget, but you don't need to know about it. You don't need to know about it. You don't need to know about it. Anyway, goodbye, friend. For it's time for me to pick greasy barnacles out from my squid friend's tentacles. Oh, how delightful.